August 26, 1942. 0320 hours. Isurava, Owen Stanley Range, Papua New Guinea. Private Bruce Kingsbury lies motionless in a shallow foxhole, his uniform soaked through with mud and sweat. The temperature hasn't dropped below 80 degrees, even in the middle of the night. Somewhere in the darkness ahead, beyond the twisted kunai grass and tree stumps shattered by artillery, a voice calls out. Mizu, Mizu. Water. The voice is weak, desperate, Japanese. Kingsbury doesn't move. None of the Australians do. They've been warned about tricks, wounded enemy soldiers calling for help, drawing men out of position, then detonating grenades. The Kokoda Track has taught them everything about survival. Trust nothing. Assume every sound is a threat. But the voice continues, hour after hour after hour. Mizu, onegai shimasu, Mizu. By 0900 hours, the sun has turned the jungle into a furnace. The Australian positions along the ridge are exposed now, visible to any Japanese observer with field glasses. Moving means death. Artillery has zeroed in on these coordinates twice already in the past 24 hours. Machine gun nests are dug in 300 yards downslope. The voice still calls. Private Leonard Sifleet, 20 yards to Kingsbury's left, whispers across the position. He's been at it for 6 hours. Let him die quiet, someone mutters back. This is the Kokoda Track in August 1942. The Japanese advance down from the north coast has been relentless, disciplined, tactically superior. The Australian 39th Battalion, mostly militiamen, average age 19, have been falling back for weeks through impossible terrain. They've seen what happens to captured soldiers, bodies mutilated, wounded men bayoneted where they lay. The rules of the Geneva Convention don't exist in this jungle. And yet, the voice continues. Mizu, tasukete, Mizu. Help me. Water. The mathematics of mercy. There's a calculation that happens in combat. Risk versus reward. Individual compassion versus unit survival. Every soldier learns it, though no training manual teaches it explicitly. The dying Japanese soldier represents pure risk. Reaching him means exposing yourself to sniper fire for 30 seconds minimum, drawing attention to your unit's position, potentially triggering an ambush, breaking cover during daylight hours on a contested ridge. The reward? Giving water to an enemy combatant who will almost certainly die anyway. Kingsbury knows this arithmetic. Every man in that position knows it. By 1100 hours, the temperature has reached 105 degrees. The Australian soldiers are rationing their own water. 1 canteen per man must last until nightfall, when supply runners can move safely. The jungle is alive with the sound of insects, birds, distant artillery, and that voice. Weaker now, hoarse, but still calling. Mizu. Lieutenant Ralph Honor moves along the Australian line, checking positions. He's 29 years old, a schoolteacher before the war, now commanding men through hell. He pauses at Kingsbury's foxhole. That Jap's been calling since before dawn, Kingsbury says. Not a question, a statement. Honor listens. The voice comes again, barely audible now. Mizu. Sir, Kingsbury says quietly. He's dying for water. He's dying regardless, Honor replies. But there's no conviction in it. The thing about the Kokoda Track, the thing that separates it from other campaigns, is proximity. In North Africa, you could shell enemy positions from miles away. In the Pacific Island campaigns, naval bombardment preceded infantry. But here, in this claustrophobic jungle, you're close enough to hear men die, close enough to hear them call for their mothers, close enough to hear them beg, close enough to remember they're human. The decision. 1347 hours. The voice has weakened to a whisper, but Kingsbury can still hear it. He's been listening for 11 hours now. Every man in the platoon has heard it. They've tried to ignore it, tried to focus on field-stripping weapons, checking ammunition, watching the approaches, but the voice won't stop. Kingsbury unscrews his canteen, takes a drink. The water is warm, metallic tasting, treated with purification tablets. He has maybe a pint left. He looks at Lieutenant Honor. "I'm going." "The hell you are," Honor says immediately. "Sir, with respect, I'm going." This is the moment. Not the crawling out, not the giving of water. This moment. When a 20-year-old private from country Victoria decides that his humanity is worth more than his safety. Honor stares at him. 5 seconds. 10. Low crawl. Use the fallen timber for cover. You've got 2 minutes out, 30 seconds there, 2 minutes back. If you're not back in 5 minutes, I'm not sending anyone after you. Kingsbury nods. He knows what this means. Honor is giving permission, but taking no responsibility. If Kingsbury dies, it's his own choice. The lieutenant can't be seen ordering a man to save an enemy combatant, but he can look the other way. Kingsbury removes his webbing, too bulky for crawling, keeps his rifle, takes his canteen. The other men watch silently. No one speaks. No one tries to stop him. He goes over the edge of the Foxhole at 1351 hours. The crossing. The distance is approximately 40 yards. In open terrain, a fit man could run it in 6 seconds. But this isn't open terrain. The ridge faces a maze of shattered trees, shell craters, decomposing vegetation. And Kingsbury can't run. He must crawl. Inch by inch, using elbows and knees, pushing through mud that smells of cordite and death. The voice has stopped. Kingsbury freezes. Has the Japanese soldier died? Or has he? Seen movement and fallen silent? Waiting? 20 yards out now. Kingsbury's uniform is caked with mud. His rifle catches on vegetation. Every movement seems impossibly loud. The scrape of metal on wood, the squelch of mud, his own breathing. From the Japanese positions downslope, nothing. No shots, no movement. Either they haven't seen him, or they're waiting. 30 yards. The voice comes again, very faint. "Mizu?" Kingsbury can see him now. A Japanese soldier, no more than 22 years old, lying in a shallow crater. His uniform is torn, soaked with blood from a wound in his abdomen. His canteen lies 3 feet away, punctured by shrapnel. Empty. The soldier's eyes find Kingsbury. For a moment, they stare at each other. 2 men from opposite sides of the world, brought together by violence to this specific square yard of jungle. The Japanese soldier doesn't reach for a weapon, doesn't move, just watches. Kingsbury crawls the final 5 yards, unscrews his canteen, lifts the soldier's head slightly, puts the canteen to his lips. The soldier drinks. Not much, just a few swallows. Enough. "Arigato," he whispers. "Thank you." Kingsbury nods, says nothing. There's nothing to say. He lowers the soldier's head gently, screws the canteen shut, begins crawling back. The return takes 3 minutes, longer than the journey out. He's tired now, shaking from adrenaline. When he reaches the Australian line, hands pull him back into the Foxhole. Lieutenant Honor is there. "Well?" "Gave him water, sir." Honor nods slowly. "Good. That's all. No reprimand? No praise. Just acknowledgement that something necessary has happened. The Japanese soldier dies sometime before 1600 hours. The voice stops and doesn't resume. What mercy costs. Bruce Kingsbury survived the day. He survived the next day too. But on September 29, 1942, just over a month later, he was killed in action during the counter-offensive at Isurava. He was 24 years old. He was posthumously awarded the Victoria Cross, Australia's highest military honour, for his actions in that battle, leading a charge that turned back a Japanese advance. The citation makes no mention of the Canteen. Leonard Siflete, who witnessed Kingsbury's crawl, was captured by Japanese forces in 1943. He was beheaded on Aitape Beach in New Guinea. The photograph of his execution became one of the war's most haunting images. Lieutenant Ralph Honor survived the war. He never spoke publicly about the incident with the Canteen. In his private papers, found after his death in 1994, there's a single line: "Kingsbury crawled out. Some things matter more than orders." The war in New Guinea killed over 15,000 Australian soldiers. The Japanese lost over 120,000. The Kokoda Track became synonymous with suffering, sacrifice, and the kind of combat that reduces men to their most basic instincts. And yet, the meaning of the water. In war, we create categories: friend and enemy, us and them. These distinctions are necessary. Combat requires them. You cannot hesitate, cannot question, cannot afford complexity when survival depends on split-second decisions. But the categories are never complete. They cannot contain the full reality of human consciousness. A Japanese soldier calling for water is still a man dying of thirst. An Australian soldier with a canteen is still capable of compassion. Kingsbury's crawl lasted 4.5 minutes. The water he gave probably extended the Japanese soldier's life by 30 minutes at most. In military terms, the action was meaningless, tactically neutral, strategically invisible, and yet it matters. It matters because it represents a choice, a conscious decision to acknowledge shared humanity in conditions designed to erase it. The jungle wanted them to be animals. The war wanted them to be machines. Kingsbury chose to remain human. This is not a story about heroism. Kingsbury's Victoria Cross came later, for different actions. This is not a story about changing the war's outcome. That Japanese soldier would have died regardless. This is a story about the 4.5 minutes when a man decided that mercy was worth the risk, when compassion overcame calculation, when one soldier looked at another and saw not an enemy, but a dying man who needed water. The Kokoda Track is marked now with memorials. Tourists hike sections of it, retracing the desperate Australian retreat and eventual advance. The jungle has reclaimed most of the battle sites. The foxholes have filled in. The voices have long since fallen silent. But somewhere in that jungle, in the mathematics of war, there's a ghost of a moment when two men met in a crater, and one gave the other water. That's all it was. A canteen. A few swallows. A nod of acknowledgement. And maybe that's everything.